Okay. Take you down. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is Coach Sherri. That's who I am. And this is my podcast. So it's amazing how YouTube has evolved. And now I have a podcast. And so do you if you are a content creator. So this is Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And this is my fifth episode for my podcast. And this episode is going to be tips on how to manage your life. And there are so many areas of your life that I know, even for me, that I need some tips on how to manage. And I'm excited to bring this episode to you because I do have a special guest that is going to join me. And again, if you need tips on how to manage your life in areas that or that you want to have more effective, that you want to see be more efficient, if you are in that sandwich generation, if you have a sudden life change, it could be a death, a divorce, a marriage, a birth of a child. You may have a will, but the people in the will may have changed. They may have passed on. There's so many things, catastrophes. Your house could have flooded or burnt down, or thinking about Hawaii. That's one of the reasons why I decided to do this show because of what's going on in Hawaii. And I did do a video, a pre-recorded video about that. And in that video, I also shared the catastrophe that I experienced when I had my first son, my first child. And, you never know where life can take you. And so it's better to prepare before you need it than trying to react. And some people say, you know what, if I ever got into a situation, I would just fly. I would just, flight away and just don't even worry about anything. Those things don't matter. But there are some things that do matter. Of course, your life, absolutely, your life is number one. But there are things that you will want to gather and have with you. So this episode is definitely going to give you tips on how you can gather those things and have them in a place that's accessible. Also, my special guest, I'm so excited to have her on. She is a dear friend, an old friend of mine. Oh my goodness, I've known her for many, many years. And she has been on this show before because she is a dynamic woman, a dynamic speaker. And when I met her, it was in the early 2000s, and we both were coaching at the same time. We were using one of the same types of concepts for our coaching business. And that's how we connected, and we just stayed that way because when you meet someone that's kindred spirit, you want to hang on to them. And so she's seen me through many life changes. I've seen her through many life changes, and here we are. And what she has done with her experiences, she put them all in a box and put a bow on it, and actually has a book that is around this topic. So, and it's a user-friendly book. It's a interactive book. It's not a book that you just read and let go. It's a book that you actually input your important information. And if you are interested, and I hope you are, definitely go into the description box below in this live, and you will see the link that you can go and get her book. But she is definitely going to come on here and talk more about that. So my special guest is Vashti Hale, Coach Vashti. And before I bring her up, I just want to let you know she has written a book. It's called Life Matters, and it is an interactive book. Again, the link you can find in the description below in this live, and I will definitely I'll try and pin it too. So that it can go across. But I just wanted to let you know that Coach Vashti is here to drop some nuggets. I hope you have your pen and paper ready because she's going to give you some valuable information. This information is not just for you to keep to yourself, it's also for you to share with others, loved ones in your life, because we all need this information. Vashti is an entrepreneur. She is also a licensed insurance agent. She has a notary business, and it's a brick and mortar, and she does also mobile notary. She is a coach. She is a mindset changing coach for people who are in business. So she definitely has lots of business nuggets that she shares and takes her clients from inception to completion with their business projects. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Coach Vashti. Hi, Vashti.
Well, hello there, Sherri. Happy Thursday. Hello,
Ha-
everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for
Hello.
having me.
Absolutely. And I love to call Thursdays Friday Eve.
Yes, yes, yes. It's almost
Happy
there.
Friday Eve. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, how are you doing today? I know that you are all over the East Coast and you do travel a lot and you have a lot of moving pieces going on in your life. So, how are things on your end of the universe?
Things are well. It's a great day here in New Jersey. To your point, I would consider myself to be bi-stated. So here in Jersey, the humidity is not as high, nor as the temperatures as the Carolinas, but it's a bit sultry, and so
Hmm.
it's been a great week. It's been a productive week, and it's almost the best day of the year, my birthday. So what more can a woman ask for?
Exactly. And it was so interesting because Vashti had asked me, well, what is this going to be like? Because the last time that I had you on the show, I provided you with some questions that I possibly were going to ask, and it was a little more structured in that way. And this one, because it's post Hawaii fires and brimstones, and I just kind of wanted to have this conversation. So I said, we're going to be like Sherri Shepherd and Kim Whitley. And so she said, well, who are we? Which one are we? And I said, of course, I'm Sherri. We have the same name, same spelling and everything. So she is Kim. And so, but we are Sherri and Vashti, coaches
Yes.
extraordinaires. And so this is actually going to be a sneak peek for most people in how we communicate with each other. Because again, I was sharing that Vashti and I have been friends for many, many years. And it's been a wonderful experience being your friend and just living each other's lives through who and how we were doing it. So many different changes. Our children grew up. You are a grandmother now. Just relationships and businesses and just a ton of things that we experience together as friends. And you always have nuggets to drop, and that's why, because you have written your book, Life Matters, I wanted to bring you on so that you can share with the audience, whether they're here live or in replay, because thank you all for making this video viral for sure, this podcast. But, just to share these nuggets because they're valuable. Many people don't consider it until they need it. And my thing is to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So the thing is taking action. But before we get into that topic, I just want to ask you this question. So I have these cards that my family and I we play sometimes. It's called Our
Oh,
Moments.
our moments.
Hmm. And this is the family version, so it just promotes some really good conversation and deep thoughts about different things. And the card that I have selected for you is, what about the next year? And I look at this, there's two times of a year. There's the calendar year, January to January, and then there's the fiscal year, which is June to July. So let's look at this as the fiscal year because July 1st started the FY24. So, and we're in business. So, let's look at the business side of things. What about the next year are you most excited about?
Ooh, so that one is interesting. So thank you again for that question. So as I'm thinking through it, so what am I most excited about from a fiscal standpoint? Just more strategies and strategizing from a standpoint that, and we've always heard, work smarter, not harder, right? So definitely being intentional in that mindset, but also maximizing what's already in my hands.
Hmm.
As I've been doing business, I actually left corporate over 10 years ago, so 2013. And one of the things that I look back almost, and we've often ask that question, what would you tell your younger self? Is that, okay, every dollar is not a green, every dollar is not a good dollar. So as I'm looking for, from a fiscal standpoint, it would be just maximizing what's already in my hands. And the other part of it, and it's funny that you have talked about this natural disasters, but also more of the philanthropic standpoint of giving back. So
Hmm.
we haven't done as a business. I haven't. I do it with my church from an outreach standpoint, but this year, that's one of the things that has been one of the things that we are going to implement is giving back to other business owners, other community partners, those types of things.
Absolutely. That's great. I love that, maximize what's in hand because oftentimes people don't even realize the value that they hold in their hands and they are like always trying to find that next thing to grab. And it's just, you know what? Slow down, take your time, look around, see what you already have and maximize that. Evolve that first and then go into the next thing. And I like that giving back. That's one of my business goals, financial goals as well, is to do more of that. Is not even just financial, it's also with information, with time. But, that is one of my goals. And I have a lot of great strategies around how that's going to play out for me. Toy Weezy is in the building. Thank you so much for tuning in. I
Hey.
put the comment up so that we can continue with our conversation. So, what was your thoughts? What was the first thing that came to your mind when you saw the devastation that happened to that area in Hawaii?
The first thing that I thought about, because I have been to the island, in fact, it was our senior class trip, and we weren't in Maui, we were on the Big Island, was what exactly is going on. So let me just say my news, and I'm almost ashamed that most of my news is Instagram and Facebook driven. So it
Yeah,
wasn't until I saw some posts and I said, well, what exactly is going on? So one of my first thought processes was, well, was it that they were near a volcano? Then once I started reading, it's like, no, these were wildfires. So um, here in New Jersey, maybe about 2 months ago, uh, we had 2 days where the entire sky was orange because of the Canadian
yeah.
wildfires. And, while I'm not a geographical, specialist, in my mind, I was like, there is no way that Canada, which is this many hours ago, away, is showing the residuals that I mean, we had to have masks, we were closing down windows, and the sky was like this eerie orange. And I'm not too far from the city, so you couldn't even see the skyline.
Hmm.
So when I saw and heard of the Maui fires, it was from an environmental standpoint when I recognized that that was the cause of it. So it lets you know that it's a real thing. And then secondly, just thinking about the lives of people. I know what, while I've not had, of course, and, we've been friends for so many years, and everything, I always make you tell me the story of when you were in the Superdome, because I'm just like, that didn't happen. They said you had to leave out the hospital? Like, that didn't happen.
The
Um,
wildest.
and so I've never been in a scenario like that. The closest that I have had was, maybe a loss of power for a couple of hours. So I missed, things like, Superstorm Sandy and Hurricane Katrina. Those were not things that I've never had to endure. It's always been the ones that I've been almost like a spectator. So when I heard about the Hawaii situation and watch some of the stories and the footage, my thought process was like, this could be me. This could be someone that I know.
Hmm.
So that was one of my first sets of reactions.
Hmm. Yeah, and we can't forget the Canadian fires,
Mm-mm.
and I can't even believe that I didn't mention them in the beginning because that was really the onset of the fires for this season. And we had, even in Charlotte, we had residual effects from those Canadian fires. And I remember at one point saying, what kind of test is this? You know, we're getting him from the north, but could you imagine? I wonder where the flames would affect if they happened in Hawaii. So I'm
Mm.
wondering if any place on the West Coast found, you know, had side effects from those flames, because it was incredible. And you're right, it's like things that you least expect to happen, and when they happen, and then what? And that's not our first catastrophe in this 21st century. Absolutely not. I mean, we've had several, but when you think about even the most recent one that we just, well, we're still in it, and it's actually resurging, but C-19. And you know, what was that like, especially with your businesses, you know, being in insurance and, you know, a notary? How did that affect your business when C-19 happened?
I was actually here in New Jersey when the world stopped. It was March 13th. It was a Friday, and I was getting ready to actually fly back to Charlotte, and they were like, you need to have gloves and masks. And initially, just because it was something that we've never heard of. So when I look back and I think about like SARS, bird flu, and those types of things, it's things that, again, we see it, but you're like, oh, that doesn't affect me.
Hmm.
So from a business perspective, we had no clue what was getting ready to happen. So as notaries and signing agents, we quickly looked at just what was being put out from a government perspective and said, okay, is this something that, are we able to still, do business? And we were listed as essential services, meaning at hospitals, at assisted living facilities, at nursing homes, we were the only ones. And I say we, this is a family business. So both my son and my daughter are co-owners in the business. And our first couple of months, we were seeing people outside of their homes because we just didn't want to, take any risks. I
Hmm.
have some immune deficiency scenarios, so I definitely, I mean, it was one of the point I was like, keep the pen,
Yeah.
I'm sanitizing, um, and so it was definitely life changing. Our business scaled tremendously because again, we were essential services. So we were on COVID floors where we had to put the full
Mm.
hazmat suit on. And initially, what we were doing, we would have to FaceTime the individual if, depending upon the severity. And that was also because they were still learning and discovering, well, is it one of those things, that is only, airborne? So that was definitely challenging. And so we definitely created just some standards and procedures around that, just so that we would, be safe. And so from a mobile standpoint, we were able to just get some strategies. And then our office, our brick and mortar location, we definitely ensured that, there was sanitizing, there was masks. But from a business standpoint, which ended up being the creation of the book, the binder, was during that same time I was caring for my dad who had been diagnosed with lung cancer. And
Mm.
with that, he had four different physicians, and that those were like the primary. So we're talking about cardiologist, oncologist, primary, hematologist, and then he was doing daily radiation and weekly chemo, and here in New Jersey. So that created its own set of challenges because my resident state is South Carolina, and the numbers here in New Jersey were like
Mm.
outrageous. And
Hmm.
they would have this daily update, and the numbers were like, only 489 people died yesterday. And you're like, really? And then
Only.
only. And then what took place as time passed, the numbers in South Carolina began to rise. So I
Hmm.
didn't want to risk going back and forth for obvious reasons. And so there was one trip, maybe about a month into it, that I ran to South Carolina just because, of course, New Jersey weather is bipolar, just to change some suitcases. And on that particular weekend, when I landed in Newark, South Carolina was on the like almost like a no fly, like on the, and so on the hospital they said, if you've gone to, so typically during this COVID era they're saying, okay, if you've traveled, here, here and here, um, these places, you need to let us know. Almost similar to the questions they asked, have you had fever, chills. And so South Carolina was on there. And so I said to my father, look, we got to get you to your, your treatment. I'll talk. And so they asked me the question, and my dad, to know him and to love him, he passed in 2020. They
Sorry.
asked him, thank you. They said to him, has anyone visited in South Carolina? Was like the first. And he looked at me, he said, I don't know quite how to answer that. And I'm looking at him like, really, Daddy?
You know, you
Definitely.
don't, if
So
you don't want to see me in 2 weeks, Dad, you will know how to answer that question.
exactly, exactly. So fast forward, it definitely was life altering, changing from a perspective of even how I do business. My daughter, she was on a college campus, so she contracted COVID very early. And
Mm.
as a mom, I said, well, you probably just need to stay there because, no need in infecting all of us. And then my son, he went to Vegas because, of course, flights were dirt cheap, and he came back with COVID. So now I got shower curtains. And fortunately, the
Oh,
way that our home was at the time, he almost like he had his own separate quarters. So it was definitely challenging. And to your point, as it's almost like re-emerging and things have changed because I ended up, it's almost like I dodged the bullet all the way until maybe 8 months ago over Thanksgiving break. I got COVID.
oh my
And
goodness.
and of course I got to urgent care, and I was expecting this long drawn out, and they're like, well, no, if you're fever free, just wear a mask. And I was like, huh?
Yeah. It's,
Like, that's it? Like this, I'm out here on
yeah,
my own? And
pretty much.
so it's definitely, so if I were to, interrelate the fires and COVID and the things that in our generation that now we are seeing and witnessing, it's
Hmm.
not like back in the day when we're talking about, a snowstorm, a hurricane, and the first thing that I think that is essential, whether you're talking about it from a sickness standpoint or from a natural disaster, is being prepared.
Being prepared. And that's what we are here to talk about, tips on how to manage your life and managing your life and being prepared, being organized. And like I said before, my previous video, well, first, let me reintroduce her. So, for those of you that are just coming in, this is Coach Vashti, and she is here to share with you and all of us tips on how to manage your life. And she actually has a binder book that she wrote. It's called Life Matters, and it's a place where you can put all of your personal and important information in that you just don't even realize you really need to have them all in one place. I'm trying to tell you, you may have a safe. I have a home safe. I have one built into the wall. But if something happened, are you going to be able to pick that safe up and carry it with you? Are you going to be able to knock that wall down and grab that safe out of the wall? Maybe not, but you do need to have your information. And a lot of you probably have them electronically. However, even though we are going into the digital era, you know, documents, tangible documents are still a thing. And Vashti, and I want to also welcome in everyone that has joined us. I know that Toy Weezy was number one. Welcome, welcome. Miss Yo-Yo's Closet over 50 is in the building. Black Gun and Gardens. I appreciate you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Adventures with Roxanne. I appreciate all of you that are tuning in live, or if you are tuning in as a replay, this is some valuable information that is being shared. If you want to just kind of like toggle back and forth, The link to Coach Vashti's book is in the description, so you can check it out. I highly recommend. I actually have my copy right here.
Yay!
And it's a lot of great information. So Vashti, I use that example of when I was in the Superdome and it was just unexpected after I had my baby. He was not even quite 24 hours. Well, he might have been 24 hours old, but he was not even a week old. And we had to evacuate, and I had to determine in my home what should I bring, what should I leave, what do I need to put into place, scrambling around trying to gather important paperwork. And a lot of times, again, people will say, oh, that stuff doesn't matter. It does. It really does. You want to have your financials and things of that nature. So, what inspired you to make this book, to make this a resource to have on the market to sell? What made you say, what? More people need this.
Great question. So I'll also share a story. And Sherri, as she stated at the beginning, we've been friends for quite a long time. So 2015, I was in Disney World, the happiest place in the world, and I had a stroke. I was on business.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, not fortunately, but fortunately, because I am here, one of the things that was a residual is I couldn't speak, but I was able to maneuver my iPad and all my
Mm.
electronics and all that other good stuff. And because I am the queen of paper, I always travel with my documents. So at any given point, I have these documents. At that point in time, they were not in a binder form. They were just in a calendar because I am of the age, I can't even believe that I'm saying this, that I still run around with a paper calendar. So yes, things are on my phone and on my digital source, but I just like to also have something that's tangible. I'm a note taker, excuse me. And so 3 days after this, having the stroke, they advised that I was going to need heart surgery. At that point, my daughter was 13. My son was 23. They were on their way. Well, they had obviously gotten to Florida to me. And what you'll find about me, I'm straight no chaser. I was in the middle of separation. So the documents that I had with me still had my, at that point, soon to be ex's information. So I needed to change power of attorney, my living will. And so that was almost like what sparked the flame. Fast forward to 2020 when my dad got his diagnosis, and I was here in New Jersey, and obviously managing my business and my children and the business, so adult daycare in some sense. I said, I got to get organized, because for any of us that do go to medical providers, despite the fact of how many times they have you say, okay, log in and have you done this and the other, I said, there has to be a better way. So I started thinking, well, do I have a list of his medications? Do I have a list of his doctors? Do I have a list of the diagnosis? And one of the things that, for me, I said this is going to be essential because it made the care of him a lot better. So that was the start of it, because, raise hands for any of us that see that when you see that cookie tin, it can be one of three things. It can actually be cookies. It could be a sewing kit, or there may be some treasures in there, or that table size Bible that, have birth certificates and important, documents, or the mattress. And I said, we've got to do better. And especially the notary business. I've been doing this business since 2004. And when you're talking about documents that have to be notarized, witnessed, a lot of times there are some supporting documents that especially me as a notary, we have to see. So let's just say if someone is a power of attorney, I can't tell you how many times we've been on site in someone's home. They're like, wait a minute. And they're like pulling out this big box of stuff. So that was the inspiration of it, and just getting to a place. And I said it's important that, well, it's very odd how if we say right now, oh, such and such is getting ready to get married, or so we're getting ready to get married. One of the things that people say, oh, we're going to do this color, the venue. So in that same, we need to have that same energy when it comes to our documents, and making
Mm-hmm.
sure that the things that are important are where they're at, because to me it's a disservice to our loved ones, our children. My daughter, and of course I do this as a living, she couldn't find her birth certificate the other day. Well,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of months ago, and that was before we were getting ready to, get a passport renewed. And I mean, I was like fire engine hot, because I was like, I do this. What do you mean? I gave it to you. And
Yeah.
there's like a social media post, and it says, when you're over 30 and your mother still has like your social security and your important documents. Well, yeah, for reasons, for, these obvious reasons. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Definitely. And a lot of people don't realize, they always think, oh, I need my will, I need my documents in place because I'm of age, I'm a senior citizen, I'm over 70 or whatever. But the way people are dropping now, just for no reason, like out of the blue, or, you know, there's just challenges in life and you just never know. Don't wish it on anyone, but you just never know. But you have to prepare now, be proactive instead of reactive. And so, even people who feel like they're young and vibrant, everyone needs to have a will in place and they need to know where it is. They do it a lot for their elderly parents, especially. It's interesting how people are in that sandwich generation and they're so focused on the medical side, of their parents. They are focused on the medical side for their children, getting their booster shots or whatever they're, go take them to the doctors, the dentist, whatever, getting them ready for school and such. But then they don't have any other types of documentation. I think about my mother's sister. My mother preceded her in death, but her sister, who had been divorced for many, many years, decades, probably like 40, 50 years when she passed away, um, she was leaving everything to my mother. And she had
Mhm.
other siblings as well. But because she only had it for my mother and my mother passed on, it had to be distributed to random that I know, she may not have or may have wanted to have things. But, you have to keep up with those things. If you get a divorce, if someone that you put in your will or your beneficiary for anything has passed on, you have to get those changed. But you want to have them in a place that people can find them. I think about a woman that I know who passed away. And that's another thing. Our families know who we are personally, but they don't know
Mhm.
who we are professionally. And when she passed away, she didn't know who her mother worked. She didn't know who the HR person was for her to connect to. She didn't know anything about the work her mother did. And the resume that they had on file was when she first started in that role 20
Wow.
years before. So they didn't even have an update. Well, they gave her the title, but she didn't know any of the things her mother did. So again, I don't care how old you are, update your resume every 6 months. Keep it in this binder, Life Matters. There's a space for everything in there that you need to have so your family can just go to it if God forbid something happens. But listen, that's what's going to happen. None of us are going to get out of this alive, unfortunately. You live, you're born and you pass away. And so, you want to have it easily accessible so that your loved ones can capture it. They know who you are from it. When I go and talk to my father, I'm using this now, but I had just a old calendar, old paper calendar, and I hear that Black Guns and Gardens is
Yes.
like, you're not the only one.
Everyone.
Exactly. I love the tangible paper. I do use technology and the computer and such, but I do love that tangible. And it's just important to keep up with all those things and let your children see you doing that so that they can be in the habit. Share with them where you keep those documents, and don't just have them random, have them in one place. And this binder, Life Matters, is a great place to start. There's a spot for everything, and it's light, it's efficient, it makes you, it's very effective. I see Marlene Motivates has come into the building. Welcome,
Ooh,
welcome. I'm glad that you are here. Marlene is dynamic. I'm trying to tell you, she puts on some phenomenal conferences quarterly,
okay.
empowering conferences, definitely. I see everyone is speaking. Yes, you must update your paperwork. And so, what did you notice? What has been the reaction or the response from people from this book? What have they said?
It's interesting because before I can even start, obviously not necessarily selling because I'm not, I don't do sales. This is the empowering, motivating, the push to do better. They're like,
Yes.
where do I get it? Where is it? What took you so long? And so that has been the overwhelming response. And you said something, and it's so, again, going back to the beginning of COVID when we were going into these hospitals and nursing homes. And again, let me just say this, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not providing any legal advice. And by the time that we're called in, unfortunately, in many cases, it was for DNRs, meaning do not resuscitate, or power of attorney, because again, I don't care how friendly the banker, your local banker, Miss Jones, Miss Johnson is, and you know her, when you don't have paperwork and a loved one's, account is at stake,
Yes.
that's when Miss Johnson or Miss Jones becomes the lady from The Color Purple. I don't know them.
Nice,
So,
nasty. Nice, nasty.
that's right. So to your point, Coach Sherri, not only should we have a will, we also need to have a living will, a healthcare power of
Yes.
attorney, a durable power of attorney, as well as a trust. Because even with a will, and
Mhm.
again, not providing legal advice, but because this is what I do, a will always go to court and probate. But if you have a trust, think of the trust as the driver and the will is the passenger. A trust never has to go in front of a court. And obviously, there are some different scenarios when there are multiple siblings and big families. But again, if those conversations are had beforehand and there's clarity around what it is that, this person's wishes are, I believe reduces the chaos that ensues when something happens. And again, this is not morbid because, to your point, yes, we're all going to go.
Mhm.
It's definitely how we live, but also how we leave. But
Mhm.
at the same point in time, we don't, let's stop planting trees during a hurricane.
Right.
Let's be proactive as opposed to reactive. Let's make sure that, yeah, we're gonna put, like my kids, we play taboo, and it gets very interesting sometimes. But we have recently done something similar, a card game, but one over the summer, this past summer, while everybody was, we were at a family function, we pulled out our books. Everybody was like, all right. And it got funny because I have two children. They're 12 years apart. My son will be 33. My daughter will be 21. And I was just like, all right, so you know about this policy. And so it's 50-50 for both, for all of the, for all of my policies. And my son was like, well, that's not fair. I had more time. There's more sweat equity. And I was like, hey, guys, I'm still here, right?
Right.
But it was just a joy to be able to have that conversation because, in all honesty, while I knew where my dad's information was, and he kind of, it was like cut and paste type of scenario, there was still almost a part of it that was like national treasure, where I was like, where would he hide this, right? and
Right.
and that shouldn't have been the case. And so I say all that to say that the response has been great. Again, It's a planner that assists in all your details. So we're not just talking about, a death. One lady was like, I need another one of those funeral planners. I was like, it's not a funeral planner. I promise you. So, think about it for, your contacts, your financial health, legal, personal affairs. And again, for those of you that are of the digital age, I'm not discouraging that because I know that there are some amazing resources and tools, but at least if you have a copy, because who has gone to DMV and saw, was it the 6 point requirements? They need legal papers. So they need papers that, show your identity. They want proof of residency. I feel like sometimes they're asking for like a hair sample. So
Right. Of
it
hair
would,
follicles.
yes, you're just kind of like, do you also want my firstborn? Like, this is not okay. I'm just, taking a new picture. So yes.
And so with that, because some people really are like, well, why can't I just have it in the cloud? If it's in the cloud, but who's to say that your family members will be able to access your cloud?
That's right.
Sometimes people can't even access their own clouds, all the passwords and such. So at least if you have this in a one place, they will be able to access at least the majority and the big pieces. Um, and it's easy to grab. Again, it's a binder. It's not very thick. I'm sure the more that you add to it, it can increase the size, but at least it's all right here. And I'm just thinking, if I had this when we were in New Orleans and I had to evacuate to the Superdome with a newborn baby, I would have just been able to grab this and, get the rest and keep it moving. And I also remember when 9/11 happened and, with the World Trade Center going down, we weren't thinking that it, we had any kind of financial like immediate impact with it. However, one of our financial planners called and was like, "Don't worry, your money is good,"
Mm.
because they had an office in that building. It wasn't where he was, but what if it was where he was? And especially at that time when everything was kind of more paper and we still had statements, but you want to have your most recent. You want to have all your most recent items in this binder because you just never know what could happen. The people in Hawaii had no clue that that fire was going to do what it did, that it was even taking place when it was taking place.
No space.
Canada, they had no clue that it was going to happen. And that's the thing with natural disasters and just life itself. It's unpredictable. We can plan all we want to, but at least let's try to control what we can control. And that is to be organized, to be prepared, and to manage our lives the best that we can with what we have, what we know. It's really a scary thing when a loved one passes and you have no idea, because I'm trying to tell you, when my aunt passed away, and it was sudden. I mean, she was elderly, she was seasoned, but she wasn't that bad of shape. It was
Mm-hmm.
unexpected. Um, and I don't even always like to say, that that's unexpected because, like I said, none of us, but no one knew where anything was. We had
Mm.
to go completely through every single thing in her apartment. What we did find had my mother's name on it, who had preceded her like 3 years. And so we was trying to find something more recent, going through every single document, looking for a name, looking for, who is her attorney. We ended up having to go to the courthouse. We had to put something in a newspaper, see if anybody claimed anything. I mean, it was a big deal. And a lot of times, especially in this day and age, your loved ones may not even have the capacity to do all that. They may not have the bandwidth. They may not have the time it takes to do all of that. She lived in New York. I lived in Charlotte. My brothers lived in New Jersey, and it was just a lot of back and forth. But a lot of people don't have family members that can do all that. So then where does the money go? In a black hole? You know,
Mm.
where does the property go? In a black hole? And that's where intergenerational wealth and economic mobility, that's where it falls flat for us, because especially our people, we will oftentimes not be prepared. And you have to have these conversations, you have to talk about it. So what was the most challenging piece, would you say, in putting this binder together?
Good question. Probably not going overboard. So what I wanted to essentially make sure was in there was, again, a checklist. So this binder, again, is it's very interactive. So I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that it had an organizer as well as a sampling filing system, because how many times have we even, purchased an object, not just a book, but just an object in general, and we're like, oh my goodness, this is too, I haven't even read the instructions. So creating the tab sections was probably the most challenging, because I wanted to encompass all of the things that I knew were essential, but at the same point in time, I didn't want to, overboard. I didn't want to go overboard with it. And one thing, and it's funny because who would know? And I'm looking at, because I have my the master manual here, that I didn't put in. But one of the things that I do offer for those that do purchase the binder is, as additional resources come, I will send that out free of charge. So one
Mm-hmm.
of the things that I most recently added, it's called "Be Ready When the Storm Hits and the Lights Go Out." And so what
Mm.
it is, it's a Red Cross emergency checklist. And, I'll give you four that are here that, okay, do we have an emergency blanket? Do we have, 7 days of supply of medications, right? Do we have a mobile phone with your charger, not the one that's in your car, right? Do you have extra cash, right? Do you have an emergency contact list? And those are just a few that are on this list. But when, again, I'm looking at it from my own self, I'm just like, we laugh at a radio, right? During 9/11, when towers were gone or whatever, we were, almost like looking again, and that was some time ago. But if that were the case now and cell phone towers are not available, you best believe we're going to probably have to go old school, and
Those transistor
the
radios.
transistor radios, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you have little ones, so bottles, formulas, diapers, again,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the things that we've experienced. We had a baby formula shortage a couple of months ago. Who would
Yeah.
think? Who would
Yeah.
think? So yeah, so that was one of the challenging parts of putting the binder together. Is just not, going overboard, because I am a Virgo and we can tend to do that. But the other aspect is just making sure that it would be something that people would actually use, because this is not a dust collector manual by no
Right.
means.
Right. Definitely not one and done. And also, I feel that where people fall short is when they have changes, like if they got a divorce and got remarried, or lost a spouse and got remarried. If they had another baby, your children are 13 years apart. So if your son is, 12, 13, and if you were planning ahead, you would have had a will, years before.
Yes.
And but now here comes your daughter, so you have to update that. So whenever there's a change in your life, you definitely have to make sure that you take account of it, because I know that many people, you can ask people who work in benefits, will always say how, their spouse may pass on or whatever, but the ex-spouse's name is on the beneficiary
Mm-hmm.
list.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is when that happens.
Absolutely. And just knowing the laws and just the processes, like even with Social Security, for people that have, gone through divorces, most people don't know, when you do get of Social Security age, there are benefits for ex-spouses. So those are
Mm,
things that, at least if you still retain that information of that spouse's social, and it's not just for them obviously passing away, but when they reach of, that age where they're Social Security eligible, there are other benefits that people don't realize that you can tap into.
wow. Yeah, and see, all that is valuable information. There's so many people that are walking around and they think it is what it is, and we'll let them figure it out. But no, let's all figure it out right now together. Vashti, Coach Vashti, I think this is such a wonderful tool, a great resource. I definitely know that when you can manage this part of your life, you'll find that everything else will start to flow the way it needs to. This is one less thing you have to worry about. And, you want to keep it as organized. You want to visit it, I would say, every quarter to
Mhm.
make sure that all the information is still relevant. And, I just really love it. So where have you been selling it? What type of person is, I mean, it's for everyone, but what type of person are you finding is really your biggest customer so
Great,
far?
great question. So most of our notary clients, probably 70% of our business are people that are needing to get wills, power of attorneys, healthcare power of attorneys, living wills done. And so and even I'm also, I forgot, back in the day, I used to be a real estate agent. So that was actually how the notary business was birthed. I got to South Carolina. I didn't want to do traditional real estate, so I became a mobile signing agent. So, to that point,
Hmm.
when someone is selling a house, buying a house, quit claim deeds, all of those general notary type of documents, I'll say, hey, this is a resource that my company has. Something that you would definitely find valuable. And then, definitely as an insurance broker, while I'm ensuring that someone's life is insured, I'll say, hey, this
Hmm.
is, a great place to have your original life insurance certificate, because while again a lot of things are digital, and I've had people as recent, a dear friend, he lost his wife a month ago, and they still needed hard copy, raised seal
Mm.
documents. And one of those documents was the actual life insurance policy.
Hmm.
So the majority of the folks that have been, my biggest clients have been people that have been, notary clients. But then I did go to what was called a legacy luncheon, and
Mm.
we vended there. And the legacy luncheon was phenomenal. It was put on by someone that a lady from State Farm actually, and she talked about the importance of, it's not just how you live, it's how you leave, and having those conversations. And a personal testimony for her was that, here she was as a broker of 20 years. Her mom passed away, and they had no documents. The only thing they did have was the life insurance. So right now the house is just as it is. Fortunately, all of the siblings are, very they're in a great place, but they want to sell the house because
Hmm.
I guess it's in a place that, no one has any desire to live in, but they can't do any of that, and they're trying to avoid the probate route, because in this particular home, what it would cost to hire a probate attorney, she said it's just easier to keep looking for this, for the will. So
Wow. And you said it a couple of times, that you're not an attorney, but you are a licensed insurance agent as
yes,
well as a notary. So both of those comes with some legal background and knowledge.
yes,
And I listen, I know that this show is not about your notary business, and we have had a show a couple of years ago now
yes.
about it, because I am just so blown away by it. I know so many people that are looking for an additional stream of income, and they'll go and get their notary license, or become certified in doing it, and they have all these high hopes and dreams. And I think that their thought is, once I get my notary license, then that's it, people will
Yes.
come. But you really worked it, and you built it up to be a very lucrative business where you actually have a brick and mortar for it. So um, when people see someone doing something well, please don't look at where they are right now. Ask
Hmm.
them about their journey and how they actually got there. So you know what, Vashti, because that is part of how you evolved into this. You were, as a notary, and as an insurance agent, you were able to go into hospitals where no one else could go during the
Hmm.
height of COVID, and you saw the need. And just, can you give us a little background on your notary business for those that may not be familiar with how a person can actually make a notary license into a full-fledged business, family business that your son and daughter are also part of?
Absolutely. So the notary business, I was a notary in New Jersey when I lived here, just because I think it was almost like voting back in the day. My mother was like, make sure you become a notary. I was like, oh, okay. And I think I may have notarized 2 or 3 documents in the time frame that I was a notary in New Jersey. But then I got my real estate license and I decided I didn't want to do traditional real estate. So as a parting gift, a dear friend of mine, she said, you should become a mobile notary. I said, well, what is a mobile notary? And again, we were relocating from New Jersey to South Carolina. And so South Carolina, the requirements were, essentially $25, the application, get sworn in, and go to work. And of course, purchase your supplies. So what I decided to do, because I did have the real estate background, I said, well, maybe this could be, something that I can, kind of play around with and make it almost like a hobby. Um, but far to, to my surprise, it blew up because while I was working a nine to five, these signing companies, these lawyers, these mortgage companies, these title companies needed an agent to close their deals.
But
And
how'd you find them? How did they find you?
so in those days, back in AO Craigslist, it was,
Remember?
yes, it was Craigslist. And actually, when you go on to, a Google search about ways to make money as a notary, that's what they
Mhm.
said. They said, reach out to lawyers, reach out to, banks, because depending upon the type of documents, while your local bank can notarize what's called like your general notary, banks cannot notarize a will or a power of attorney. And even a lot of times when we're going into these facilities, there are people that are notaries, but there's a conflict of interest, so they can't, be the notary. And then I've had scenarios where the attorney is the notary and I'm merely the witness. And I'm there for 5 to 7 minutes, and the attorney gives me $150. And again,
Mhm.
let me just say that, how you see the commercials like these results are not typical. It depends on where you're at. But I have notary friends because the just the notary world in itself, I've, met some like fabulous folks. But like in California, I have a guy that still makes $10,000 a month just from traditional real estate closings as a notary. So
Wow.
I did the real estate part. Here in South Carolina, we can marry people. So I've done so many weddings. And
I do.
yes, so I do. And that has been just really interesting because I've had the traditional weddings and I've had, folks like, we have to, you know, get married at the Starbucks at 8:31 facing
What?
east. Yeah. So, or I had one couple, they wanted to get married on the coldest day of the year outside. So my long answer in that is that do your due diligence. There is money to be made, but to your point, it's not microwave. It's very much, a slow cooker, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And being willing to do whatever needs to be done from a standpoint of if it makes, if you go through some of the seminars, and of course make sure that there are things that are legit, that it's not, and again, I hate to say this, but unfortunately with the COVID world, you got these overnight IG folks and they're overcharging. But a lot of the information that you can use or can be utilized is free, but it
Mhm.
definitely requires some, some digging, some research, and don't be afraid to try. Like back in the day, which I still do, I take a pile of cards to hotels, truck
Mm.
stops. Um,
Why
they
hotels?
if I'm on vacation and I need a notary, in most cases I may or may not have a car, but even if I do, I don't want to go to them. I need them to come to me. So the
Ah,
hotels, and the beautiful thing about notarization, it's based on where the notarization takes place. So even if I'm in California with, California documents, unless it specifies, hey, it has to be a California notary, wherever I'm at, if that person is a notary for that particular state, I can get it notarized. So yeah,
okay.
yeah, my truck drivers they're awesome. Now I've met some that makes me think that in whatever that movie is, they're like, hey, candy cane. I'm like, no, sir. I will not meet you in the cab of your truck. We can
Right.
meet inside of the gas station. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and this is about being creative and thinking out of the box and taking action.
Yes.
So if you are looking into being a notary and or you looking for an additional stream of income and starting a business, but starting it small and in an economical way. So $25, what is the
25
average, cost to start a notary business? Because that was years ago. Because you've been a notary, I think, since we've known each other, and that was
Yes.
since the early 2000s. So
Yes.
right now, if somebody wanted to get into the notary business and with all the supplies and everything, what would be the fee, about the cost?
From a reasonable standpoint, and I'm just talking from a South Carolina, you can get into the business for under $100. In North Carolina, there is a course, so I would definitely make sure that you do the research and the due diligence to see if
Hmm.
your particular state requires a course. And even if you don't, if the state doesn't, if it's not a prerequisite, just so that you're in a place of understanding what it is that you're signing, or having the person sign and then you're witnessing, that's just, I would say, a must have.
Yeah.
And so what the cost is, of course, the cost for the notarization, that state fee. I highly recommend errors and omissions insurance, no less than $1 million, because we are in the I'll sue you era. So then that way it keeps you, protected. And then your supplies, and most of your local office supplies, like your Staples or Office Depot, they can do a very quick turnaround. I used a place out of Jersey because I'm a Jersey girl, and I was able to get all of our supplies for under $50. And then business cards. I'm still old school. I know a lot of people are like, QRC codes, but
Yeah.
I've never spent less than $39 per year.
Hmm.
From an advertising perspective, it's just been mainly word of mouth referral, or someone says, hey, I saw your business card, because I'm still, if I go to an establishment and they have a cork board, I am not afraid to say, hey, can I put my card in there? Uh,
Right.
so, yes.
And you know what? And I mean, this is real talk. And if we right here talking and we're talking about tips on how to manage your life, it involves a lot of different things.
Yes.
And so, going back to the old school method of business cards, I promise you, I still have business cards. I still hand them out. I was just at a dynamic workshop yesterday. It was a community networking workshop for this new system that I'm learning, and I'm a baby in it, an infant. I'm learning. And there were so many dynamic big businesses there, and there were a lot of younger people, and so they have all these QR codes, and I love QR codes. I think they are the cat's meow. I love them for menus. I figured it out. I love it if you are directing someone to a site to take action right then and there. But I do not prefer it when I'm meeting new people.
Mm-mm.
So they were showing us how to use it with our LinkedIn account. And if any of you are in business or are professional in any kind of way, you definitely need to make sure your LinkedIn account is up to date, because LinkedIn is so important if you are trying to do something professionally. If you,
Mhm.
again, have your own business, have a dynamic career, or if you're building your career. I mean, even college students have LinkedIn accounts now.
Mhm.
It is so, so important. But they showed us how to get our QR code. So when we were meeting, they had breakout sessions. And when we were meeting people, it was like, okay, let me get your QR code for LinkedIn. I don't know who those people are right now.
I know, right? Yes, and I still go back. Like I'm still old school again, where when someone gives me a business card, I write on the back,
Me
met at the
too.
QT.
Exactly. And talked about boom, the
That's
date
right.
and everything. I did not get one business card yesterday. I gave out business cards and
But you didn't get one.
I didn't get one. I
Hmm.
received 4 emails today of Sherry, was great meeting you yesterday. I want to stay connected. Boom, boom. I thank you for emailing me because otherwise I don't know who you
Who
are.
you are.
Because when I connected with you on LinkedIn, you went into my whole thousands of people list that I have on that site.
That's
So
right.
it didn't do me any good because we didn't even really exchange names in that way. So let me tell you, I don't know how the young people are doing it by doing networking that way. I don't care how they're doing it that way. I will forever use a business card.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Because if nothing else, it gives you, again, a point of reference that you're able to say, oh, because again, I'm not even going to pretend. I can sometimes not even forget how many cups of coffee I had this morning. So let
Ah,
alone, and then you have someone that reaches out and they're like, oh, and you're like, and or they have like, a common name. You're like, do you know how many Sherrys I know?
right. And even with my daughter, being a realtor, she has her business card. Somehow they have it on their phone, like I don't even
Yes.
know. I guess it is a QR code. But my
Hmm.
thing is, once you put them in your phone, who are they? Where are they?
Exactly. Exactly.
Where?
And yeah, where is that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's important to. I still feel like paper is going to be something forever, but listen, Vashti, I love this Life Matters binder. I
Thank
think
you.
that
Thank you.
it's a
Thank you.
valuable tool. I hope that everyone picks one up. And because this is about tips on how to manage your life, what are your top 5 tips? And if you give me a second, I'm going to try and put them in the comment section so that in replay, you know, being ADA compliant, people will be able to pull them up.
So you would say five. You may say five. All right. So let's see. Um, be ready, right? So that you
Hmm.
don't have to get ready, right? So that would be one.
All right,
Be
calm
ready.
down. Wait a second. So you don't, because I don't type fast.
Oh, that's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
at least not on my iPad.
Not on your iPad. That's right. That's right.
All right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Um, have the conversations. Have the conversations, meaning loved ones, significant others, family, because if they don't know, they don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Uh, the next thing is probably be organized, right? Be organized
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times we're all gear, no game, right? With a lot of my business owners that I coach, they're like, they show me websites, they show me business cards, they show me business plans, but the execution of it, I'm just like, so what did you do with this? I see you have been on Facebook all day.
Oh my goodness. You know
Yes.
what? I never heard that one. I put more game than gear. But that's so true. People,
Yes.
they overanalyze, analysis paralysis. They want
Hmm.
to, see who they're gonna get first, or what the color's gonna look like. Oh, we got this. Oh, we have this new product. We got this now. We got this new machine, this new technology, this new computer. All this, that, and the other, and then it's no game.
No game. No game. That's right.
All that, and that's like even with YouTube. I use my phone or I use my iPad primarily,
Hmm.
and I know that there are some dynamic um, cameras that you can use for podcasts or For blogging, absolutely. I'm sure. I know it. I know that there's some great systems out there to use, but my thing is, why should I extend all of that income when there's no return? You always have to look at return on investment.
Investment.
And so some people will buy safes, some people will buy, all these different things. Oh, I'm gonna put all my stuff right here, and they don't. But I feel like this right here is a great bang for your buck in terms of staying organized, being more organized. And you get this and you have it all there, but when you get it, make sure you use
You
it.
said that's right.
Don't just have it there because you wanted to support it. You want to support a minority owned business. You want to get it because you're going to use it. And people will have a ton of different things like, oh yeah, um, I had, I had them put this system in so that it can on my computer so it can keep track of all of our documents, but they never keep track of all their documents.
No, not
So,
at all. Not at
hmm
all. Not at
okay,
all.
let's see what's
So,
number 4.
number four is going to be share and share some more because I believe, unfortunately, that's something that we don't do.
Hmm.
We hold it to ourselves or we act like, again, and of course, not that it's limited to a particular, dynamic of people, but we share, things that probably we shouldn't, and we don't for the things, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we can't be, spiritual or
Ha.
physical fat rats and not
Oh,
share it.
my light is falling.
That's what my mind decided it would. I was like, oh, it's getting a little bit darker, and then
But you know what? And I always say this whenever I do a training, especially if it's around essential skills, fundamental skills, I
Mhm,
always tell them do not keep this information to
to
yourself.
yourself.
Because what is it for you to be the best and the smartest or the most woke person in your circle?
Mm-mm.
You want to elevate everyone in your circle, empower everyone in your circle so you all can be good. You have those in your circle that are asking you for fish all the time. Now is the time where you can teach them how to fish. So give them this information. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think I was at a conference pre-COVID and they added on to the fish analogy.
Oh,
He said, I don't want to just teach you how to fish. I want to teach you how to build the pond. I was like,
hey,
wow,
you know what I'm
okay.
saying? Because listen, there's a lot of places in this country. You dig down deep enough, you will hit some kind of waterway,
That's
and
right.
you can make a pond for sure, for
Absolutely.
sure.
And,
Oh,
and the last tip is get started. And I think that just kind of like, dovetails on what you just said. Get started. Again, I think a lot of times we'll say the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Someday is not on your calendar. Let me just put this to the
hmm,
side, and you don't want to be placed into a situation that now, time is not on your side.
yeah.
One of the things, and last story, when my dad passed away, it was it was right before Christmas, and
Hmm.
we were not managing to plan one funeral, but two, because one in New Jersey where he lived, but then also in Virginia where he grew up, and so just the dynamics in trying to logistically plan, because not only are we trying to get the remains there, but we're trying to get ourselves there. There was a major snowstorm.
Mm.
My mother wasn't being cooperative, and it was just a lot. So again, had some of the things been in place, even though
Hmm.
I would say 70-75% of what I needed I had, but even that additional 25% it was painstaking. I mean,
Yeah.
I was looking for the title to the car, and I'm just like,
Wow.
where would he put it? And finally I found the box, but that was days later. And
Yeah.
again, it was during COVID, so you had to do it was an appointment for DMV, and they were
Hmm.
only giving out 200 tickets, and the person in front of me was number 200, and I had been in line since 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Wow. Wow.
yes.
And and so this is the thing where we are talking about I just want to make sure. when we're talking about get started, I'm already claiming it. This video is viral. So again,
Viral.
thank you for those who are in the chat who came here for the live, and for
Thank
those who
you.
are watching this on replay and who are sharing this out, because this is valuable information. And with billions of people watching YouTube on a daily basis, I know someone around the world, they're like, wow, I wish I would have known this last week, or I'm glad to hear this because I need this today. And I don't want you to wake up tomorrow needing this but not taking action. So get started and understand what you need, have those conversations, you know, be organized, get organized, more game than gear. Share and share some more. So don't keep this to yourself, and be ready so you don't have to get ready. That's the main thing. You want to be more proactive than reactive, because when you have to be reactive,
Mm-mm.
oh my goodness, it's not good. Look, attitudes flare, systems go a wire. It's just not good, and it wastes time. It's not efficient, and there's no reason why you can't be efficient and effective in all the things that you do in your life. There's just no reason. Just imagine, Vashti, you spent almost 3 days looking for a title to a vehicle that why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why? You
Why?
know, why? So, don't do that to your family, and don't let your family do it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready, get started, and do it now.
Yes.
Life matters. It really does. But it's what you end how you what was your saying about at the end?
It's not how you live, it's how you leave.
It's not how you
It's not just how you live, but it's also how you leave. So obviously
yes.
we want to live life to its fullest. So let me just make
Hmm.
sure I'm saying that, because I very much am a partaker of that. But it's also how I leave, and it doesn't
Yes.
have to be morbid. It doesn't, and I'm even
No.
challenging people that to kind of upset the apple cart in how these homegoings are. Have that conversation. My kids, the conversation, I'm like, y'all have a party, right? the
Hmm.
same the
Hmm.
same Sunday cookouts and the things that we do now. That's the way I want the celebration of life for me to look like, right?
Yes. Without
Not
all the GoFundMe
mm-mm.
situations and
Oh no,
everything.
no, not at
There,
all.
there's some, and I know for you being in insurance, that you probably have policies for every single type of budget.
Oh yes, oh
And
yes.
that's a whole nother
That's
conversation. You
a
might need to leave your link. I need to get your website so I can actually, your link to all the things that you do, so that if anyone needs to reach out to you, that they can. And even if it's just to ask you information, and knowledge is power, and people seem to be so afraid nowadays to just have those conversations, but to open their mouths and ask questions. Whenever
absolutely.
whenever you listen to something, you should always be thinking, what else do I need from that? You know, think deeper. Even if it's the first time you ever heard the information, you should still have some type of questions or comments, concerns, something around what you just heard.
That's right.
Um, I'm not saying every time you hear something you have to talk, but you really need to mull a lot of that information around so that you can really capture it. But yeah, Vashta, I enjoyed this conversation. I did. I
Likewise,
did.
likewise. This was full, it was rich. And of course, I am so grateful for you just as a friend, a sister,
Yeah.
a person that has definitely seen the highs, the lows, the in betweens, and with tons and tons of laughs. So,
Yes. Y'all, I promise you, Vashti and I go way back, and we have experienced some really dynamic things.
yes,
And um, we had some amazing stumble upons,
yes,
okay?
yes.
Where the resources that we've gathered over the years, what?
Wow. 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 I call it the file cabinet where old ideas
What?
never die.
Never die. The
Never.
most valuable things ever.
Ever.
I mean, and I look, I just keep recycling, 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 because it never gets old. And I can't think of a better person than you, Coach Vashti, to have gone through all of those types of journeys with. And the best is always yet to come. No one
Absolutely.
has arrived. When you have
No.
arrived, that means it's over.
No.
So that's
No.
why it's
Yeah.
always about that whole strive and being off balance, learning new things all the time, and just saying like what's next, looking at what next is,
That's right.
and I love it because I know you have more books in you. You
Yes.
do.
Yes.
And so when you shared this book with me, I was like, okay, all right,
Yes.
Vashti. And that's what it is. You might think the first book you put out is supposed to be one thing,
Mm-mm.
but God has a plan, and He's like, no, what you just went through, what you just experienced, that was nothing compared to what other people are experiencing.
That's
So
right.
you have to turn your test into that testimony, and provide the path for others to walk down more successfully. That's what life is all about. So if this is a great example of that, turning that test into the testimony and providing the blueprint for others. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone that is listening live for your support. And then to those that are listening at this from a replay standpoint, I'm here. I'm an information resource. I don't mind sharing, and it's never a competition. The only person I'm in competition is the person as I was yesterday. That's
All
it.
right, all right, exactly. And everyone, this has been Real Talk with Coach Sherri. I am Coach Sherri. Thank you so much for tuning in. And be sure to leave a comment and let me know, what did you think of this information? What tips resonated the most with you? If they were all of them, then great. And also check out Coach Vashti's book. The link is in the description box. I'm also going to add her link to how you can connect with her as well. This is episode 5 of my
Hey.
podcast, and this has been tips on how to manage your life. Until we speak again, I want you to practice so hard. Practice hard because when you go out on that field, in that boardroom, in that office, on that court, that when it's time for you to play, for you to get in, that you will play to win. All right, stay safe and take care. Have a great night.